running free and feeling so alive. Wore out the wheels on that old 65. Never thought we'd end up running blind. Tarot cards and shooting stars can't say whether we should try to break away or stay the course to run another day.
Yeah, so how long have you guys been in Nashville now?
We bought the place in 2017, but we didn't actually move here until right when the pandemic started.
Oh.
So 2020, we're just getting dug into the scene and the community now. So it's been really fun.
Cool. And you got the record out in like a day or so. So it'll be tomorrow here because we're a day ahead of you. So what do you got planned for the day? Anything exciting?
This fine interview with you. And we're getting prepped for another thing that's happening tomorrow, another podcast. And then we're going to be doing a bunch of shows. So
good.
Have to head to North Carolina and Maryville, Tennessee before we go to South by Southwest.
Oh, is South by Southwest happening this year?
Oh, it is. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Because I know a lot of musicians from New Zealand head over there, and in 2020 they all had to cancel at the last minute, and it was a big deal for everybody. So I'm glad it's getting back into shape.
Us too.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. So the album is called Tarot Cards and Shooting Stars. It was, I assume it was recorded during the pandemic. Was it both in Nashville and LA? Is that how it was done?
Yeah, we started basic tracks, which is like your drums and your bass and rhythm guitars in Los Angeles.
Right.
And when we moved here, during the pandemic, we decided to build a little studio in the backyard, which was finished by that time. So we did all the guitar tracks here in Nashville, and then went back to LA again to kind of do what, like I call decorations, overdub. Right. And then we mixed it back here in Nashville. So it's basically LA, Nashville.
Yeah.
And what about the songwriting? Where were the songs? When and where were the songs written?
A little here and there. We're just kind of always writing, always coming up with ideas. And we had just a compilation of things in our iPhone, memos. So we pulled them out, just picked the best ones, and turns out we had a solid record in there.
No, there you go. And do you write together or kind of independently and then bring it together? How does it work between the two of you?
Yeah. There was and then there was a couple songs that she'd co-written with other people on this record. So if you look at the credits, but I think for the most part, if I'm more of a music idea person. So I'll float an idea past her and she'll be like, yeah, this sounds cool. We can work on this. And then we'll start chiseling and getting it going.
Yeah. Johnny's really great with like getting a groove going.
Right.
And it's, if it inspires, then we go with it. We'll start working on it together.
Cool.
So,
The record starts with All the Right Reasons, and there's a video involved in it and all that. So why is that kicking things off?
We were young and wild, pulled in by the undertow. Who were you to understand, and who was I to know? We had every intention of carrying on. You had all the right reasons for doing me wrong.
it's funny because when we recorded this record, that wasn't the one that we thought was going to be, the most radio friendly single or anything like that. But I always loved it. I just thought it was super fun. And I love the imagery of like the youthful couple that just makes all the mistakes. And then you kind of get past it a few years and you look back and realize that, wasn't such a good idea. And maybe it ended for the right reasons. And I liked that so much. And I could hear that it could be a really sort of indie sounding almost groove, and it just turned out to be a standout. To us it did, and every time we played it for all of our team and everybody picked it. So I was happy about that because I I think it's cool. I love the way it starts with those drums, and you know, it's I like the imagery. It's a little different than the other songs too, as far as the lyrical content. It's more of a story about something that happened rather than, you know, a feeling or an expression like that.
Gotcha. Another one I want to touch on is Let's Get Together, because Johnny, you play the guitar, and it's got a very kind of Southern guitar sound to it, almost like Muscle Shoals vibe on that one. What can you tell me about that?
Let's get together. Our days won't last forever. Thinking of high times, the ones we won't forget. Fate's in our pocket, and not a thing's gonna stop it. We're over the bad times. Look back with no regret. The best years we've ever spent.
Once again, I probably developed those licks, if you want to call them that, here in Nashville, and I don't really have a particular style that I would lean to, but the use of those double stops, in which permeates a lot of the intros to both the verses, is something that, you know, growing up listening to Jimi Hendrix and of course different guitar players like that, Curtis Mayfield and stuff. I've always liked that sound. And this particular, you know, song was, you know, mid-tempo, so you could put in those licks and they would fit very good. So that was my inspiration for it.
And later on, there's kind of a guitar solo kind of thing happening. And I have to tell you, my favorite band is a band called Mott the Hoople, and it reminded me of they're all the young dudes in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Which I believe was
awesome.
Did Mick Ronson play on that?
He didn't play on that. He was in the band at the end of their term. Okay. It was Mick Ralphs played on the.
Mick Ralphs. Well, he's Bad Company guy, so right.
Yep. So
no, I mean, and that's the kind of thing for this record, was like, we wanted not necessarily show off type solos, but solos that were good to fit the song and push the song forward. So I appreciate you saying that, though.
And you kind of paid tribute to another one of my heroes, Neil Young, covering Lot of Love. Why did you choose that one out of the many options you must have had?
All these old songs are, we like to listen to that old music. We go down a lot of rabbit holes to just sort of learn and discover where things came from. And we had been going down a rabbit hole of Ted Templeman.
All right.
Because we had just read his book.
Oh, does he have a book? I'll have to look at that.
Yeah. And he tells the Nicolette Larson story in the book. And then we were talking about that, and just, so we of course, we start listening to Nicolette Larson and to see what the, you know, because we when we're touring, we read a lot,
right?
And we'd been on the road and we reading and stuff. So we were reading that, listening here, listening there, and that song was just so good. And then we listened to the Neil Young version, and it's also great.
Yep.
In a different way. It's like they're total polar opposites, right? So we were saying, well, what if there was one that was kind of more in between, like the horns and stuff? I don't know,
right?
But the groove is cool with her. But I like that raw guitar stuff with Neil.
Yep.
And you know, and with Johnny, it's cool because he can just come up with licks that didn't exist in the song, and kind of create his own guitar landscape. And that's what we did. And it was so funny because we were in a Home Depot store walking around right after we read that book, and the Nicolette Larson version came on the overhead.
Don't you love it?
It's so great. We're covering it. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's literally what happened.
I'll have to check out the book, because didn't he also like produced like Van Halen and Doobie Brothers and people like that?
He produced Van Morrison, Doobie Brothers,
Mhm.
Van Halen. He did a Carly Simon record. You know, a lot of bands. Yeah. So it's a good book. I mean, I highly recommend it.
It was a good read.
Cool.
To that era, you know.
Yep. Well, that's kind of my era.
Great era.
It was pretty good. I had a good time.
Good. Glad somebody did.
So what, speaking of good times, like you say, you're going to be doing some gigs and stuff, but with the COVID, and is it kind of here, everything is kind of in a weird state because we've only had a limited amount of COVID deaths, but everybody's kind of afraid to do anything and go out. So what's the vibe like over there?
It varies, different states are, but I think overall people want to push forward and,
right.
And get back to whatever we consider normal. So here in Nashville, we, if you want to wear a mask, you're welcome to, of course, but
right.
if you don't have to. Like we played last night at a place called the 5 Spot, and the bartender was wearing a mask,
Yep.
which is fine. So I think overall, it's going to be kind of normal. I don't think we'll see any interruptions or issues.
We had such a surge over the holidays.
Yeah.
And it seems like everybody who hadn't gotten it now has gotten it in our friendship circles and all across the United States, really. So maybe we're done for a while, hopefully. Like, please.
Yeah.
And otherwise, how did the gig go last night?
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a great Tuesday night in Nashville.
Right?
Yeah.
East Nashville.
Yeah, it's a great little place called the 5 Spot. I don't know. Have you been to Nashville?
No, I think I've gotten as far as Memphis.
Oh, that's cool too.
Or Chattanooga. I almost moved to Chattanooga. Instead, I came here.
That's place too, yeah.
But anyway.
It's this particular bar in a place in East Nashville called 5 Points. And it was well attended and we had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
And we opened up for it was Derek Hoag's night.
Yeah, it's just a fun Tuesday night that always happens. And we decided to do our record release there because it's a local, gym. And
right.
we knew people would be out and, just a chill, good neighborhood community vibe.
Very good. And so you are kind of hitting the road after this?
We are, yeah.
Yeah, we'll be heading to South by Southwest.
That's right. Yep.
And from there to Los Angeles for a couple of shows, and then back to the East Coast, and sprinkle of shows on the East Coast, and then we're booking as we're on the road too. So we have shows right now booked out through July and a few in August, but we want to fill up this year pretty heavily and just get back to work.
And is it just the two of you, or do you have a band that plays with you?
Sometimes we have a band and sometimes we have just the two of us. So we're doing shows with the Bacon Brothers. It's Kevin Bacon's band as a duo.
Yeah, we'll do some
other.
He doesn't have Michael Bacon, his brother, with him, does he?
Yes. Yeah.
He made a great record back in the 70s called Texas Cowboy, and he was kind of popular in upstate New York. It's a beautiful song.
Oh, that's awesome. Now we have some homework.
Yeah, Michael Bacon. I haven't thought of him in a long time. There you go. Great. One other track I wanted to touch on was Baby, It's a Gift. There's some beautiful piano in there and something about a barrio. So what can you tell me about that song?
It's a song that I started writing a few years ago, actually, and just kind of got stuck. Just had the idea for It's a Gift. And then I was in Nashville and I have a friend here, Emily Bell. And I was at her house and we decided to do a songwriting day. And we just started talking about the story about, what's the story? It's a couple who's grateful for everything they have, even though it's just not a lot, but, they're able to look at, it's a perspective that, you're lucky to have if you do. And it's funny because we really wrote it right when the pandemic started. And we wrote all these lyrics about, kind of living in LA and being in the, in Van Nuys or, in the hood and what that looks like. And we didn't really realize how meaningful it was going to be at the end of this thing that we've come out of. It really took on a new meaning. And actually the piano player is Sasha Smith, and he had gone through a real tough time. His wife passed away. She died of cancer after a long struggle. And it's just a real sad story. And I had given him the song to play He did it. It was during COVID, obviously. So he did it at his own home studio. And he wrote back and he said, this one was especially moving for me. And he was really happy to have played on it. So as soon as he said that to me, and I realized like, wow, this one could touch people in a certain way. So anyway, that is a special song for us.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. And are you thinking ahead? What are you going to be doing next? I know the record's not even out yet.
I mean, we want to keep on making music. It's so fun to make music with him. For me, we have more songs already. Kind of demoed out a little bit. We have some basic tracks on new material, and that's what music makers do, right? You make music and you make things, and that's kind of the thing that's the end game, is to make things. So we're going to keep making things.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll spend a lot of time playing in front of people and making their lives a little bit better with our songs.
Can't hurt. That's not a bad thing. Very good. Well, thank you for getting my day started bright and early here in Auckland. Fantastic. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you, Marty.
Good luck on Friday.
All right.
Thank
take care
you.
now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.